already.
Okay. All right. See it. Okay.
And good
All right.
morning, Michael. Today,
Good. Okay. Yeah.
today
Today is
the
Tuesday. Uh, so you want to talk about
storytelling.
let me crank up the volume. Right. Okay. Okay. Storytelling. Storytelling. Okay. I'll just I didn't have I did not do a lot of research on that, but this is based on my experience. And every time when the word storytelling pops out, all right, I just can't help it to think of this story. Every time when somebody uses the word storytelling or the art of storytelling, or let me tell you a story, or let me share with you my, the word story, not just storytelling, but story. Have you heard of this story or read about this story called The Giving Three? I may have told, huh?
You gave me the book for Olive.
Oh, I did. Oh, beautiful.
It's green color.
Yes, correct. I have bought over the years. I have bought. That's why this story rings the bell. It lights up my inner soul. So I have given out a lot of this book. I bought
Hey,
hardcover type. Yeah.
you have a soul.
That depends on which. I have many souls. That depends on which one. Yeah. Many died. Many died years ago. All right. And some revived. Damn it, some revived. I didn't want it, but it came back.
They call it the S-O. S-O.
Yeah, yeah. Also. So
Sorry.
I over the years I bought books, that green book, mostly hardcover,
Yeah.
and I give it away and telling people that, hey, you can read it for adults, you can read to your kids, whatever, and then pass it on. Don't hang on to it. It's a very simple story, only a few pages, a few liners, and with big illustration. Just pass it on. Don't keep it in your shelf. So just because it's a beautiful story. It's a story that I relate so much to unconditional love. The humanities of how the three continue to give to this boy until the end. I think it is quite amazing. If you put that into a biblical context in a Christian world, oh, it's like Jesus. The apple tree is like Jesus. All right. If I told that story to a kids, it's very engaging. But because we're going to talk about storytelling today, and that story kind of burst up from my head, I was thinking of, hey, Casey, why don't we polish up our storytelling techniques by reading that story and dramatize it? Just imagine that you are retelling the story to a kid that you have not met before. Okay, you might bump into this kid, so you're preparing yourself. If I were to meet up with this kid and there's an opportunity for me to tell a story, or even to a class, all right, this is how I would tell this story. So we use it as an exercise. We use it as, as an opportunity to practice our storytelling skills. Now I know this is like, well, this is one part of storytelling, really telling somebody else's story, but telling it good. That is something that is a challenge by itself. We know the story, and sometimes impromptu when we are asked to tell the story, our mind just because we are all storytellers, but we are not prepared to tell it well. I think that is the crux of the matter. What we want to do is that we are all storyteller, but we cannot seem to juggle our mind, having the logical flow of the story, and also having the structure. At this point, I should raise my voice. Now I feel so sad. So that is really an art by itself. I'm not talking about selling a branding, selling a logo, selling what we learn in this will be applicable in our life. We want to sell an idea to a client, we have to use our tone, we have to use our hand gestures, we have to use colors, graphics, so on and so forth, visual telling aids. We have to role play sometimes. So I think this small start will help someone to perhaps, to polish up their own style of
Yeah.
telling this story, and we want to perfect it. Because once we perfect it, it becomes not our story, but our style of telling story, our trademark of telling this story. It becomes our style. Of course, we didn't write the story, right? Is what Shed Silverstone wrote the story in 1973. He owns the story. We don't own the story, but the way we told it, somehow people can relate. Ah, yeah, that story Casey told. Of course, we don't want credit that way. All right. Yeah. So we want to say, oh, Casey, that good storyteller, was telling this story. you know so that becomes your style, right? Everybody is unique. Your voice, my voice, your choice of vocabulary and my choice of vocabulary might be very diverse. All right,
Yeah.
but we are not doing word for word. We can still do word for word from the author. All right, it will be perfect. I mean, I think it's an uphill task. So just read through the story a few times over and over again. All right, and then do 1 or 2 liners a day until we perfect it. And then by 7 days, I tell you, you will complete the story with perfect delivery. I do not know this is something that we're going to talk about. If we are talking about using storytelling as a business, that is a different chapter altogether, right? But it still applies. So what I have done, okay, instead of telling, when you Google the art of storytelling or storytelling, all right, a lot of people on YouTube or on any media that you search online will give you the very fundamental structure. Or if you tell a story, this is a formula: part A, part B, part C, part D. You fill in this, you fill in that. 9 out of 10, you have done. I don't know how much research you have done. You come across materials like this, correct? Right? So I was thinking, gee, let me be who I am, and really go out there and tell a story. Now, my experience, I'm sure, is similar to yours. We always have our own story. Take, for example, our dream or our story or a story that someone told us. We seems to have that story, but we can't seem to apply that formula to make it, wow, this is a great story. Correct? We
Mhm.
always have a story, but it's always incomplete.
Yeah.
We tell from point A to point B and we end there. And sometimes it comes across interesting, sometimes it comes across boring, but
Yeah.
sometimes we know the story, we don't tell because we know that it's not engaging. We have a story, we have dreams, we have thoughts, we have feelings. We just don't communicate because we thought that it's not interesting. Now, in order to make it a bit more meaty, in order to make it a bit more interesting and dramatic, all right, I come up with this formula. So our story incomplete, not interesting. That is the fact you and I can relate. So that is the first box, correct? What do we put in front and what do we put behind? So it's like crafting our story now, not telling yet, but make it a bit more meaty and dramatic. We are preparing our boring, short, incomplete story and to build it up. So in front of our story, we put in a prelude to the story, an introduction to the story. So take for example, oh, last night I had a dream. See, we start with last night. So there's no introduction to it, okay? Because as I share this with you, Casey, I'm also improvising. So how do I put the prelude in front of my boring story, right?
Yeah.
So I can start by before I go to bed. Oh, last night I may have a bad coffee and I was so tired, I was so frustrated. I went to bed. You see, I got a bit of prelude.
Yep.
Then the dream comes because I was sleeping, you see.
Okay.
So I give a bit of, I don't know whether this is a good idea, but I think I would adapt that to my structure. All right. It's my invention. So I call the prelude to the story. And then you give some details or describe the prelude to that story. It can be 3-4 liners, you know. Then it leads you to sleep. It leads you to dream. All right. So that is box number 2. Number 2 comes first. Our original is our crappy story. All right. Then number 3 is after the story is told, how do I feel about the story? Oh, you know, Casey, I'm worried about this dream because it's so real that I think it will happen to me, you know, in these 3 days. You know, if I don't see you in 3 days, you know, Casey, I'm so sorry, I'll have to leave you behind. You know, something like that. So you throw in feelings. Now, feelings, of course, this is your story. You have your own feelings.
Yeah.
All right. So you pick your own words. So after the feeling, all right, related to box number 3, all right, you have some takeaway lessons. You know, hey Casey, you know, from this whole entire story I told you, I think I have learned something. You know, you wrap up the whole story. Then, in order for me to engage you, hey, what do you think if you're in my shoe? So I ask you for your feeling. So you are drawn into my story. Okay. So in reality, our crappy story, we start with a crappy story.
Yeah.
But when we want to tell the crappy story, we put a prelude in front. Oh, I went to the shop, I had a bad coffee. I went to sleep, I had this dream. Okay. So the dream is something that you have experienced, you can tell. So I'm not going to fill that in, all right? And then the box number 3 is your feelings, your reflections. And then towards the end, the lesson learned. And then to engage is, you know, this is what I've learned. What have you learned, you know? Correct. Yeah. So then let the viewer, or let you, whom I told the story to you, you're the listener, you're the audience, and let you share the view. So you are engaging in my story. All right. So that is one simple technique. So I just drew this out not too long, so I don't know whether you can see it or not. But I would take a picture and send it over. Okay? It's something that I scribble. All right. So if I were to base on the research on YouTube, Casey, it's always the problem, the solution, and the final takeaway. Everybody is using that formula. The problem, but mine is real. My story is incomplete. It's true. We have so many stories we want to tell in our lives, but we just do not know how to tell it. And when we told it, if you were to tell it to our kids as a lesson learned, it doesn't seem to come across as a lesson, you know. All right, it feels a bit disjointed, right? So that is a real piece. So if it's disjointed, then how are we going to put it into a nice format? So this is a format I came about. It's real life. You know, in fact, I put some of this in my daily practice as well. All right, if I were to tell a story of my experience, I will somehow run this through in my head, not knowingly that can become a formula. So today we talk about storytelling. So hey, you know, let me document it into, pad it down on a piece of paper and make it a bit more structural. All right. So as we go along telling story, all right, as we go along telling the story, all right, I also made some side notes of recipe I want to throw in. All right. Mystery is always important. Now, mystery I do not mean spooky. All right. Mystery is actually used in graphic design. Graphic designers use it all the time. So in the presentations, we want to present things in sequence. We don't want to zoom everything out there and then client look at it and client look at the end and say, oh, that's not nice, but not looking at the 10 before that. So what we do, okay, the business word for this is called there's a word for that. Progressive review, or review progressively. That means you show one first, scene 1, then you show scene 2. All right. So we hide the scene 2 and scene 3 first. Yeah, it's progressive. There's a word for that. It's a design word. Even in internet, sometimes you see a bar, you collapse, right? All right. After you finish reading, right, you go to step 2. Step 2 is hidden, unless you click and then it drops down and show you what is step 2. All right. I don't know. There's a word for that. Okay. So mystery to engage is important. Emotions is important. The tone that I use, the gesture of my, my body language. All right. Yeah, I think this is some recipe, and then of course, dramatize it lah. Let me put that dramatize. Okay. Right. Yeah. So those are just recipe, history, emotions, and drama. Okay. So what are your views on storytelling?
I think you spoke a lot on the how to do a storytelling using techniques
Right.
like
Right. Right.
expressions
Right.
to dramatize. These are all
Right.
techniques to storytelling.
Right.
I
Right.
think the what I have in mind is more content.
Oh.
More
Okay.
content.
All right. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I mean obviously when you present a story, you need that part of the
Right. Right.
storytelling.
The
Okay,
content, right?
no, like the technique that you have.
Oh, okay. All right.
If I
Okay.
present it, I need dramatize. Like
Right.
this is my GoPro, and why is it pink? And I didn't say, oh, this my GoPro is pink color and leave it down. It's an expression. These are all technique
Mm.
of use. It comes with practice. It comes.
Yes. Right.
You cannot just read a book and say, oh, this is part 1, 2, 3. After watching Michael's video, I know how to present already. No. It comes with practice, a lot of practice. But
Right.
the direction I'm looking into is more to the content. I can
Okay.
have a nice. You look at Starbucks, and you look at Coffee Bean. I always give people this example of story of when you go to Coffee Bean and you get a coffee, and
Right.
it's cappuccino $7, $6.50, and you find that, damn, this is expensive.
It
you
is.
know
Yeah.
yeah. But when you go to Starbucks, you order a coffee, the person
Right.
smiles, how are you, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Cappuccino. Okay, shall I add the sugar for you?
Right.
After that, you pay the money. It's $6.90.
Right.
Thank you very much, and it's
Right.
cheap.
Right. And they address you by the name.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Yeah. This
So
is Michael. Your coffee is ready. Yeah.
yeah,
So now the
yeah.
whole world know my name. Right? Okay. All right. Yeah.
So you see, Michael, Michael and Michael and Michael.
No. You know what? You know what? When people ask me for my name, I think you know that, right? My trademark. I always put the doctor in front. A Doctor Michael. Yeah, it's true. Then they announce Dr. Michael. Oh my gosh, I got a lot of eyeballs, man. I tell you. That is true. It works. It
That's
works.
a good idea. That's a good idea.
It takes balls to get eyeballs, right? Yeah. Hey, that's my quotation. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
let me write down.
Hey, that's
It's
all my quotations. Damn it! Don't steal it. Okay.
more to what?
To get.
To get. I will. Yeah. I like that. I like that.
You like that, huh? Yeah, you do a graphic up for that, lah. Right. Anyway, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so you see, like you compare these two coffee cafes, right?
Right.
It's obviously people say, but it's Starbucks, what? But why do you say that? Starbucks are not selling coffee. They don't sell you coffee for $7 and think it's cheap or expensive. They sell you the experience,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's the story of why people goes to Starbucks. You
Right.
look at McDonald's and other fast food restaurants.
Right.
When McDonald's say they want to close during this pandemic,
Right.
the whole Singapore shaken.
Right.
What?
Okay.
Why are you taking away my fast food? Damn it. Correct?
Right.
Now, nobody cares about KFC is still open, Burger King is still open, Moss Burger is still open.
Right.
They don't give a
Right.
shit on that.
Right.
McDonald's is closed. It's closed. There's no more fast food.
Right.
So that is the story. What does McDonald's story tells us. It tells
Right.
us that, you know, yeah,
Right.
be a clown. You know, you just love it.
Yeah. I saw a very funny illustration of the I don't know what's the clown's name. It's Ronald McDonald, I think. Yeah, standing in line in Burger King to look for a job during this closure. I thought that was funny. Yeah, yeah. I'm here to apply for a job, something like that. The speech bubble, because they'll be out for the next 6 weeks. Okay, I got you for that one. Yeah,
so
Starbucks is yeah. So go ahead. Yeah.
no, so I'm looking at the content itself. You see, like when I can design a beautiful logo for a client, but if
Right.
the client cannot sell the story of the logo, he can't get through to his customers, his clients. He
And
can't use
that's where the designer who designs the identity have to build in
the story.
the story, and you know how to get this story out, right, Casey? The technique of okay, this is I think I've shared this with you, but not many people get it. You see, the problem with design students, Casey. I have taught this in LaSalle. I've taught this in people whom I feel that they can make a good designers. I will share this experience, but many don't catch it. All right, it's because as a students or as a hungry designers, 99% of our mind is preoccupied by what font to use, what color to use. Tell me fonts, tell me colors, tell me graphics, tell me, they are so engrossed with the how-to graphic design rather than the story of doing the graphic design, doing your design. So the technique now, okay, that I've told this to many LaSalle students when I was teaching a few years there. All right, in order to carve a story, all right, the story doesn't come from me. The story must come from the client. And you ask the client for story, the client is like, what story? I do not know, this is a business that I've inherited from my dad. I have no idea. But we are not telling that story anyway, okay? Uh, so the technique of using storytelling is when you sell your logo, you design for the client, and how do you craft a story that they can agree to it, all right, is during the time when you take a design brief. To me, Casey, I spent a couple of years searching high and low for the perfect design brief. Whether an idea can make it or break it is from the brief itself. And the brief must be so well crafted, and there is no one size fit all. You have to customize it. The brief is so important whereby when you talk to a client, you use this brief, question and answer. All right. I always use my notebook. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. All right. It's still acceptable. All right. The brief will document some of these things. So this is step one of any design work. Take a brief. All right. The brief is not about timeline. The brief is not about budget. The brief is not about all those things will come. All right. But it's not important to the storytelling. All right. If your client is not giving you time, I want this logo tomorrow, then hell, this is not going to turn out to be a good story. Then why tell it? I don't want to be a story. If I know that if I cannot tell a good story, I won't tell that story. All right. So anyway, the brief is the most important. I've bought books. I have read. I have somehow went undercover to big agencies and pose as a client and see how they take brief, Casey. I've done that. All right. I thought the brief is by far the most important phase in any creative project, the most important phase. All right. So from there, I told you before, I convert the brief into a workshop. Taking brief was stupid, free. Hey, Casey, I got a logo, come in, we chat. Clients give you time. Oh, when is this due? 6 months from now, no problem. Am I willing to pay? Yes, I'm willing to pay. But we can't tell a good story. Then clients feel that, wow, I'm paying you so much, I could get a good story out of it, right? So what is important is that I transform the brief into a workshop. I told you many times, and client pay me $600 for an hour. And normally a brief all right, for my kind of workshop brief is 2 hours, and I get the clients, people involved. In that 2 hours, there is like a 15, 20 minutes coffee break. Then we gathered. Man, client is paying me brief. Clients see value because hey, my staff is involved too. Wow, it's like an exercise. It must be important to get my own people involved, right? So suddenly the client's mindset shift. It's not about the boss and the designer. It's about my boss. It's a boss and the company. It's true. The company people must believe in what you design.
Yeah.
Whether it's a logo, a package, a uniform, or what, you get them involved. Psychology, they see the value of paying $600 as opposed to you and client. Well, no, you cannot bill them, and then you go back to the office, you feel dread because I have to put together a proposal. In order to win, I go an extra day to put in all my graphics and all my intellectual property, and who knows, that intellectual property will be stolen, right? At least if they steal it, I still make that 2 hours of money, correct? And there is a formal transaction. There's a formal transaction. Then if you take them to court, hey, there's a formal transaction, and say, hey, I didn't receive your proposal, but you have so many weaknesses. The boss and the employees are all weaknesses, right?
Agree
Correct.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not everyone is bad, lah, right? Yeah, some people will have integrity. Yeah. Casey came and did a presentation. The brief is the most important. So it's depend on how you ask the brief. It's where you extract the pieces. So that's phase two. You take the brief, you analyze the brief, all right, and weave it into a story. And it is their story,
Can
all
I
right?
I suggest
So, right. Mm-hmm.
can I suggest you do are you willing to do one workshop over the video the next time?
One workshop over the video. What I mean? Oh, over this podcasting. Oh, I see. Okay. Let me see. What do I going to say? I do not know. Uh, okay, let's think of it. Okay, this is kind of a thing of a fit. I'm not so ready right now. Okay, because my bihun is waiting for me. My wife just got back from a coffee shop with some bihun, and my stomach is saying, "Man, Mike, go for the food. Why are you spending your useless time with Casey?" Yeah.
That's because I posed you something that you can't answer, damn it.
No, that's true. I mean, if your stomach is hungry, you go for food. So Casey, yeah, we can do a session on that. We can do a session on that. But you have to give me some structure of what do you want to get out of it. Maybe I can think of something. All right. In order for me to formulate, it all depends on the brief, right? Yeah.
Okay, you see.
Okay. If you're asking me, can you reshare what I've Casey speaking, Michael, can you reshare what you have shared with me about storytelling, about doing the brief thing in a session next time, right? Correct. More like a show and tell, lah, what I've said.
Okay. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
And I
All right.
think you are, because now we are talking about this brief thing, right? Is
Right.
the structure
Right.
of how you draft the story, because we are talking about storytelling.
Yeah. How we draft questions to ask the owner of the story.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And get content out of
10. Correct.
the story owner. Right.
No,
Correct.
because I want to put this conversation very clear, you see. Like why it leads to brief writing now, because we are talking about story writing. And
Correct.
because of that, right, we need a structure even to
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm talking about a story who need the content. And now we
Correct.
need, how do we get the content is to brief. You need a
Okay.
brief. Yes.
Okay, Casey. Okay. Imagine yourself. Okay, I make it easier for you to understand. Imagine yourself as a a, a street journalist.
Okay.
All right. Let's say you start your own news station. You are the only one go out there, all right, to collect news, and you need to interview the owner of his shop being burned down, and you need to report the news. All right, you work for Channel News Asia, whatever. How do they go about asking questions? That is itself is a brief, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that person who asks the questions, interview, da, 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 then eventually it may go on to publish Straits Times, right? Somebody have to write it out, the story, all right? So this information is very important. If you don't ask the questions, oh, how tall is this building? Then the person who writes is like, gee, how tall? Oh, well, don't have it. Then you skip it. Then they use a tall building. Damn, that's not interesting anymore, right? Storytelling is about giving details. Oh, a 12-story building. Oh, a 35-story building. People can imagine. You paint things in the reader's mind. When I say tall building, man, your tall and my tall is different. When I say 12-story HDB flat, you and I can really imagine, wow, this is like my home, right? You see, it's very different, right? Yeah. So getting the brief, developing the brief is like a journalist developing the questions when
Yeah.
he or she go out to the field to interview the person or to interview people. Now, normally they interview not just the owner. If I talk about the burning office tower, they also interview people from the streets, right?
Mm.
They also interview a passing taxi, you may have stopped there. Oh, to make it more interesting. Yeah, I was driving from a distance and I saw big smokes coming out. Man, your stories become very juicy now. So
Okay.
no different from a journalist writing questions to interviews. All right. Now, one of the best channel to go to listen to uh, few journalists is BBC. Yeah, BBC does a very good job. When they do documentaries, they go out to the field. They want to do a documentary about drugs,
Yeah.
right? You want to do a documentary about, the coronavirus. Man, suddenly they are able to put up a very interesting 45 minutes coronavirus, how it started, what have happened, and what it would be like the world after coronavirus. They are able to do so. They apply that formula, but where to get the content? That is what you're concerned about,
Yeah.
right? Is the street journalists go out there asking interesting questions and finding different people to supplement the stories. A bit of prelude,
Yeah. Yeah.
correct? Yeah, correct. So
In fact,
so that so
yeah.
that techniques comes in play. All right. The brief, I call it the brief because in our business we call it the brief. The brief is the most important part of any creative deliverables. Right.
I totally agree with that. Are you on Netflix?
No, I'm not on Netflix.
Okay. You have a 1 month free if you want to sign up.
Oh, is
So
that right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. You can sign. You can cancel the thing
Okay. All
on
right.
the 30th day.
Okay. Tell me
Serious.
about Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was quite amazed and I find it quite stupid.
Right.
They have a documentary about coronavirus.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's like it just happened, it just happened like a few months ago, and this pandemic has locked down everybody.
What
And
is the
yet,
title of the show?
um,
Coronavirus.
Netflix. Give me, I'll get you the title.
No, don't worry. Is this a Korean show?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Uh,
About infection, right?
no, no, no. It's not a
Okay.
movie. It's a
Oh,
documentary.
a documentary. Okay. All right.
So, okay.
Okay.
What
All right.
I actually meant, right, is that it's quite interesting to coronavirus explained. The title
Okay. Okay. All right. Uh-huh.
is how I look at it is because it's interesting because it's I'll send you the image.
Okay. No
Now,
worry. No worry.
okay,
Yeah.
I find it interesting because how do they get the storyline? How do they get the idea of it? How do they compile the thing? I mean, so end of the day, what you just said is correct. You see,
Right.
you need technique, you need the correct brief to do it. How you
Right.
get the brief right is because you have done so in a few years, using a few years time to get from everywhere, from books, from people, from
Right.
agency,
Right.
and you
Right.
customize
Right.
what you use, and yet every time you use it you still have to customize it for every
Yes.
different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Same here. What I learned about storytelling in public speaking,
Right. Okay.
every time you have to customize to your audience. You have to know who are listening to you,
Right.
the people listening to you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Uh, I have given a, a few years ago. I was invited to Olive School, you
Mhm.
know, to show and tell about the parents' job.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so
All
they
right.
invited me because I introduced myself as an artist, as a
Mm.
painter.
Mhm.
So so you see my story to the children, right, is
Mhm.
I am a painter. I express
I
as
thought you were a porn star, no?
I didn't tell them that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I got
my.
2 jobs. Okay. Day job is graphic designer.
I
Then the
got
kids
five.
will say, "What about night job?" Yeah. Okay. So you went to the school and you told the story to the
Yeah, so
kids.
so so I draft my presentation towards the children because they are my target audience.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I did a small painting live, painting flowers, showing them. And you see, if I do not do that, I do it professionally. As for adults, the children will not understand me.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
and
Right.
what I
Right.
gotten out from the presentation is after a few days when I sent Olive to school, one
Right.
parent actually waited for me and tell me
Wow.
and say, and Casey, I just want to thank you. I was there at the presentation and my son was so impressed and my son start painting because of you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You see, so
Okay.
this is how
Yeah.
I would mention, like, you draft you customize your brief
Right.
so
Correct.
people can able to
Correct.
understand it lah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Storytelling is actually one of the, we have discussed this many times. It's one of the
It
most
is.
important part of everything.
Yeah, it is communications, right? Yeah, correct. But communications with a bit more texture in it. That's all.
Yeah,
Right.
like when
Uh,
I sneak out at night, to meet someone else, and I come back late,
uh,
I had to
uh-huh.
drop a very beautiful story to my wife, right?
Uh-huh.
Michael get into trouble and need my help. I had to, he was crying like for
Uh,
hours and
uh,
hours. I just sat there, I do nothing. I just sat there,
right.
and
Your bullshit story, lah, right? Yeah.
it's storytelling, Michael.
Yeah, lah. No, your when come from you is bullshitting.
Is it what they say
When come from me is storytelling. Okay, there's a difference, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Right.
So to conclude this, right?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Storytelling is basically professional bullshitting.
It is, yeah, it is. It is dramatized. Acting is same thing. The
Yeah, yeah.
cast go on the stage to act, He act as a bad guy, but in reality, he's a good guy, Right. So, right. So I mean, interesting. So,
I I like
getting contact, yeah. Read about design. In fact, I have a book I bought from Basha years ago. I think it's called The Perfect Brief. All right. A very boring technical book, right? Yeah. So,
is it good?
it's technical. You see, Casey, when you buy a book, all right, the book is a lot of pages, but you end up taking away 1 or 2 pointers.
Yeah.
Some, mostly you already know. Some is fresh, but the fresh one, out of the 2 fresh one is like you felt that it's not very applicable. Then the other one you keep it for use, right? Then
What's
then you then you go around doing some other things like I went undercover, all right,
yeah, yeah,
post
yeah.
as a client. I write to big agencies. Then they give me like, oh, in our interview tomorrow, these are the questions. So I got a copy of those questions, from a few agencies. The same thing I did for getting the way they structure the costing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I've done a lot of this part of the business of graphic design rather
That
than
kept you
the
alive today.
design itself. Right. Yeah. So those are the things that I've done to somehow move my business forward. To be in line with what the market
Yeah.
practices and all about. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. I hear you. The whole idea is about uh whether your story is convincing
Yeah.
or
Absolutely. Absolutely.
comfortable
Right.
or No, people know about storytelling. They still want a story. You
Right.
know,
Correct.
people know about Starbucks is expensive, but they love it. They like the story. I mean, I like the
Right.
story. You know, I
Right.
accept.
Right. Right.
Fine,
Right.
you
Right.
know, I
Yeah.
know Coca-Cola is all sugar, but I still drink it because they're selling happiness. You know, it's a
Right.
story of
Right.
Coca-Cola.
Right.
But
Correct.
it's very interesting chat today about storytelling.
Mm.
I think this can lead up to one thing that we can talk about the next time.
Right.
I have something we can think about it now. I heard from a friend, right? He said that I want my children to that his two kids are very young,
Mm.
5 and 8 years old.
Right. Right.
He say I want my two kids to go into acting classes.
Okay.
Yeah, I want them to learn how to present themselves, how to act in plays and things like that. Then my friend commented to him and saying that, wow, you're those parents that you want to have your children to be in the in the movie industry and things like that. Then he said no, no. He said I'm a businessman. You know, every part of my business presentation is all about acting.
Mm.
Yeah, he just
True.
want to get I just want to get my children to understand the basic to present themselves in whatever situation they are in. That's
Right.
acting. Look
Right.
at Donald Trump. Look at
Right.
Obama.
Right.
There are two presidents, but Obama seriously, if you really want to compare things that they do, Obama
Right.
don't really do a lot of it.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
in the story that he drove himself and the country is like, wow, you are the president, of the
Correct.
century.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
that's storytelling, that's presentation, that's
Correct.
acting. Yeah.
Correct.
So we
Yep.
can actually talk about the acting part of it. That
Yeah.
will that will link to this video. I do not know. Do
Yeah.
you agree?
So the acting part is more the delivery lah. So now you have the story. How do you deliver? So you deliver through acting, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we can show some examples. We can deliver it. Yeah. I'm always amazed by actors that
Mm-hmm.
they can live in a movie, right?
Right.
And and they and they have to get out of the movie to
Right.
their
Right.
personal life. And I
Correct.
heard that some actors couldn't get out. They
Right.
had yeah, some actors couldn't get out.
Right.
Like this
Uh-huh.
Hong Kong actor Tony Leung. Tony Leung took 4 years. He
Uh-huh.
he, he act in a gay movie. He's not a gay, but he
Right.
acted as a gay guy in the movie, and he
Right.
took him 4 years to get out from that role.
Oh, is that okay? Interesting. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
he dived into it. He dived into the role, and
Right.
he took him 4 years to get out from his role.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
this is quite another level of
So it's
acting.
very dangerous, if you want to do that, right?
Yeah, it's not. It's easy for me. I'm
Okay. Your real night shift job is that. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. Uh,
Right, Michael. Thank you very
okay.
much.
I hope it's helpful.
It is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
nice chat.
Yeah, it's a good chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to learn from you from maybe one of the days about briefs. You
Taking
know,
a brief. Okay. All right. Can.
we
Can.
may talk
All
about
right.
it. Right.
Okay.
Have a
Can.
good day and
All right.
enjoy your
Okay. See.
bihun.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.